Sorry. Okay, I didn't realize that I didn't start the recording. So I'll start a bit of overview right from the beginning so that we have that recording content as well. So basically, service organization control is nothing but we have a user organization called as IBM. We have a service organization called ADP. So whenever a user organization outsources its services to ADP, which is a service organization, every year ADP has to provide a SOC report to the user organization, which is IBM. So there are three things here: SOC 1 report, SOC 2 report, and SOC 3 report. So whenever an external auditor comes to the user organization, he will review the entire, or he will review the entire controls, and he'll come to know that some services are being outsourced to service organization. So he will ask for a SOC report. The internal auditor from the service organization, he will give the SOC report to the user organization, and the user organization internal auditor will give it to the external auditor. So there are SOC 1, SOC 2, and SOC 3. SOC 1 has again type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is nothing but test of design. Type 2 is nothing but test of operating effectiveness. SOC 2 type 1, type 2 is again test of design. Type 1, test of operating effectiveness. Type 2. SOC 1 focuses on internal control or financial reporting, and SOC 2 focuses on five trusted principles, which is integrity, confidentiality, and availability, security, and privacy. And SOC 2 and SOC 3, difference is that SOC 3 is used for public purpose. You can find this SOC report in the public domain as well, because you can find this particular report in the public domain as well. Reason is that there have a limited controls here. That is the reason you can find this particular report in the public domain as well. But SOC 2, you cannot find this report anywhere. So it is totally private, because you have so many details covering in the SOC reports. Like you have the company background information, how the company is operating, about the people, about the data designations, about their roles and responsibilities, about the infrastructure. All these very minute details are there in the SOC report. That is the reason the SOC report is totally confidential. We cannot find that in the market as well. So that is the reason these reports are confidential. Unless and until you have the right to look into that report, then only you'll have the right to look into that particular report. So SOC 1 examinations are focused on service and control to internal control of financial reporting. It is based on ICFRA. We have type 1, type 2, SOC 2 type 1 and type 2. Then we have SOC 3. So basically, how exactly the structure of SOC report looks like. So basically, coming to this particular question, how exactly the structure of SOC report looks like. So the structure of SOC report has 5 sections. The very first section talks about independent auditor opinion. The very first section talks about independent auditor opinion, saying that since the SOC report is being provided by the service organization internal auditor, the very first independent opinion will have is the internal auditor of that particular service auditing company. We call it as a service auditor as well, because he's from the service organization. He will provide his opinion on that particular report which is being generated. So what exactly is opinion on the controls that are being tested at that particular service organization? He will provide his opinion. Then management assertion. The second section covers management assertion. So basically, management assertion is nothing but management point of view on the control, saying that now the independent auditor has given his opinion. Now the management is trying to give their opinion on that particular control that has been tested. So that particular section will have their management point of view on the controls that have been tested at that organization. Then we have description of the system. Description of the system will be the third section. In this, it will cover what are the systems that are to be tested, what are the code controls, what is the infrastructure, where exactly it is the location. All small details should be there, which would be part of the description of the system. Then we have the fourth section, which is description of test of controls and results of testing, saying that whatever the controls are there at the service organization, how they are tested, and what would be the results. So each and everything, what sampling technique are being used, how are they tested, what are the test procedures, each and every small thing should be there in the fourth section. The last section covers other information. Other information is nothing but if a service organization wants to highlight something out of that particular report, they will try to highlight that point in that particular other information report. So these are the 5 sections. we have in the service organization SOC report. So I'll try to show you how a SOC report looks like. If I can open this one, this is SOC 1 type 2 report. If you can see here, as I told you, every time someone asks you, will ask for a type 2 report only. No one is going to ask for a type 1 report, because they want to basically see what would be the effectiveness of it. Whether it is SOC 1 or SOC 2, someone would really ask for a type 2 report only. So if you can see here, this is a SOC 1 type 2 report. If you can see, as I told you, it has 5 sections. The first section covers independent service auditor report. Second section, management assertion. Third section, description of the controls. Fourth section, effectiveness of it, control description, related controls, and tests of operating effectiveness. And the fifth section covers other information. If there is no other information, it would be blank. Now, if we can see here, the very first thing, it's the independent auditor's opinion. So every company has this format very much ready, because now here and there they are providing these reports to their user organization company. So the format is ready with them at any given point of time. The only thing that they have to change is the fourth section and the third section. The first section, second section would remain the same. In terms they want to change or not to change, everything would remain the same. So the third and fourth section, they will try to change every time whenever they provide this particular report to a organization, user organization. If you can see here, the service auditor of that particular organization is trying to provide his opinion about his responsibility, service organization responsibility. His opinion he's just trying to provide on top of that. Then the management is providing their opinion on that particular report. Then we have the third section, which covers description of the controls, saying that this is a data center. So where are the data centers located? What are their locations? And then company background. And then we have the infrastructure of the company, what tools they are using, what software they are using, about people, who is the CEO, who is the CFO, who is the CTO. All these minute details are there in the SOC report. That is the reason this particular report is not found much into it's not been access to everyone in the organization. It's been access to only people who really require this particular report. Then we have the fourth section, which is the uh, mm, testing of the controls. So how the controls is tested, and basically how the controls are being tested, and what kind of sampling technique is being used, what are the test procedures. See, if you can see here, test of operating effectiveness, inquiry, inspection, observation, reperformance. So basically, how many samples have been selected? 25 samples are being selected. So all this, what is their sampling methodology? What are the test procedures? What are the controls? And what are the test results? Everything. So in a particular, how this report is being generated is that every team has a specific responsibility to be performed. Like for example, if in a particular internal auditing, 2 people are working on access provisioning, deprovisioning, 2 people are working on change management. What they'll do is, whatever they have tested, they will simply copy and paste and put it in this particular report. So every team will do that. And basically what the lead will do is, he will collaborate every information, and he will send it across to the user organization, where the user organization internal auditor will review it. And if he has any doubts, both the auditors will sit in a call and try to understand. If there are no doubts, the user organization internal auditor will send it across to the external auditor. Then the external auditor will definitely have any questions if there are any exceptions noted here in this particular test results. So this is how the SOC report looks like. So the very first question an interviewer might ask you, have you ever seen the SOC report? What is SOC? What is SOC 1? What is SOC 2? What is SOC 3? What are the differences between SOC 1 and SOC 2? What are the differences between SOC 2 and SOC 3? Somebody might also ask you a question. Whether a type 2 report is required or a type 1 required. Always a type 2 report is required. Then, as I was referring to one particular point, wherein I was telling you that in my previous organization, we were supposed to provide SOC report from our vendors, but our vendor never sent us a SOC report, and we never asked them the SOC report. They never gave it. So once the external auditor came and he asked for a SOC report. When we asked for a SOC report, they told us that we cannot provide the SOC report now. We can provide it towards the end of the year. So basically, if you can see here, at the very starting, there is something written. October 2017 to 30th September 2018. Now, here the catch is, see, user organization year end is April to year start, and year end is April to March. Now, service organization year end is say October to September. Now, external auditor came in the month of March and he asked for a SOC report. Now, if you go to service organization and you ask for a SOC report, he will say, no, you have to wait till September, because our year end is September. We cannot provide a report in the middle. So this report is mandatory submitted every year, but it is not submitted in the middle of the year. It is not submitted in the middle of the year. So now the user organization, service organization will say, boss, my year end is September. You wait till September. We will give you a SOC report for the entire year. Now the user organization will say, boss, my external auditor cannot wait till September because he's going by April. He will say, boss, I am not going to be there till September. I require this report at any cost. Then what I will do is, as a user organization, I will take last year report, which was given to me somewhere in September. Okay. So I'll consider that report. And now the question is the details from October to March, 6 months. So what the service organization will do is, they will give me a bridge letter. It is called as a bridge letter. Bridge letter is nothing but whatever the gap is there in the number of months between the user organization company and service organization company. In order to fill the gap, the service organization company will give a bridge letter. How exactly the bridge letter looks like? See, the bridge letter would look like very simple. You can just refer to your leave letter of the principal whenever you are on leave and you submit it to that particular principal for a leave. So it would be similar kind of this letter. So this here it would be a letterhead, current date, name, title, name of the company, address, dear so and so. We have received your request for information material changes, all these things. So you should be aware that the service organization, as a normal part of it, continue updates the service and technology was designed the SOC report. Finally, in order to confirm the design and effectiveness controls, you must read and correct SOC 1 report. This letter is not in substitute of SOC 1. So what they are trying to say is, so whatever report submitted last year, the same things are being carried forward for the next year as well. There are no material changes in it. So you can refer to that particular SOC 1 report which was issued last year And for the rest things, we can assure you that there are no changes made to the SOC 1 report. It is like the same for the next year as well. And moreover, they are also saying that this letter is not intended to be a substitute of SOC 1 report. You should not consider this letter as a SOC 1 report. This is only a bridge letter. So the SOC 1 report will be submitted somewhere next year again in the month of September. But if you want that any kind of assurance that nothing has been changed, this is the letter you can consider. So this is what we call it as a bridge letter. The interviewer might ask you a question saying that he might ask you direct question saying that what is a bridge letter, or he might ask you a question saying that what is a bridge letter, how the gaps are filled between the year end of the user organization and the service organization. He might ask you, and he might also ask you how many months this bridge letter can be issued. It can be issued from close to 6 to 9 months. It can be issued. If there is a gap of 6 to 9 months, the bridge letter can be issued. So coming to that particular point, our company never asked for the bridge letter. Sorry, our company never asked for a SOC report. When we went to that vendor company, they said that we cannot provide it because it's in the year end. But we needed it at any cost for the entire year. In those cases, you can go for a third party company like a service provider, like a big four, and you can ask them like, can you please test our controls and you give a SOC letter to us, we can pay you. SOC report to us, we can pay you if there is some sort of emergency. Then if the user or service organization is ready to pay that amount, and you can get it from that particular company, from the big four, where they will test your controls and they will issue it. But for the SOC 1 type 2 report to be issued, they require at least 4 or 5 months of data to be tested. So immediately it cannot be provided. They can provide the type 1 SOC 1 type 1 report immediately, but SOC 1 type 2 report, they might require to test it and then they might have to give it. So it might take around 4 to 6 months of time to get that particular SOC report. So this is what the SOC report all about. And if we can see the SOC 2 report, it is similar. Here the only difference is that everything would remain the same. The sections would remain the same. Everything would remain the same. The only difference is that SOC 2 focuses on 5 trusted principles, which are availability, confidentiality, integrity, security, and data privacy. Everything remains the same. If you can see this particular format also, everything remains the same. There is nothing change in it. The only change is in the fourth section, where we test the effectiveness of the controls. Where we take the effectiveness of the controls. Here would be the sampling techniques, what kind of sampling techniques are being used. Here you have these 5 trusted principles: security, data privacy, availability, confidentiality, and integrity. Then we have the same kind of things here as well for the SOC 1, SOC 2 type 2. SOC 2 type 2. We have the same set of things here as well. Bridge letter also applicable to SOC 1 and SOC 2 as well. The interviewer can ask you about what is SOC 1, what is SOC 2. how the SOC report looks like, what are the sections of the SOC report, what does each section mean, then what is a bridge letter. Then interviewer might also ask you what is IP. IP is nothing but information provided by entity. So whenever we discussed about getting evidences from the different stakeholders or the controllers, what we do is we get information from them, we collect evidence, we double check whether the information provided them is accurate or not. So what we do, we check for the completeness and accuracy. So as I told you, how do we check for the completeness and accuracy? We take screenshots, we match the row counts, number of rows should match with that Excel sheet, parameters or filters. We will also see that whether what kind of parameters or filters have been added to generate that particular report. It's the only plan start date and end date has been added, or any other filters has been added where we can manipulate the output. We check those things. Query, what is the query which is used to generate the report? What is the timestamp when the report was generated? Any things which we have seen in the live items in a random manner, saying that any items which we have seen in the by sharing the screen, all these things we try to consider as a completeness and accuracy part. So basically, whenever somebody asks you how do you check the completeness and accuracy, it should be either through timestamp, query, number of rows should match with the screenshot, parameters or filters, live items in a random manner. This is the way how we check the completeness and accuracy part. Then we have something called as complementary user entity controls. As I told you, IBM is a user organization. ADP is a service organization. Now, IBM has outsourced this payroll to ADP. Now, in order for ADP to process the payroll, ADP might require some information from IBM. What is that information? Employee ID, employee name, employee PF number, employee UN number, designation, then what is the salary structure, all this information IBM has to provide to ADP. Then only they can process the payroll. So whatever dependency ADP has on IBM in trying to get the required information, it is called as complementary user entity controls. Then we have something called as complementary subservice organization control. Now, IBM has totally outsourced its service to ADP. What ADP has does, it has outsourced that service to a third party again, which is EDICO. Now, there is a sub third party here saying that IBM straight away given its services to ADP, ADP has given it to a third party. So now, whatever information IBM they require from IBM, ADICO has to depend on ADP and ADP has to depend on IBM. So this kind of arrangement, we call it as complementary subservice organization control. So an interviewer might ask you a question, what is CSOX, which is called as complementary subservice organization control. An interviewer might also ask you a question called as what is CUCs, QECs. So it is complementary user entity controls. So basically, you can give this example saying that IBM and ADP, and whatever the information ADP require from IBM, whatever the dependency is there, so that we call it as complementary user entity controls. And for complementary subservice organization controls, we say that subservice organization company ADICO is there, where ADP has outsourced the service to ADICO. So whatever dependencies are there from each other, those are called as complementary subservice organization control. So if you see a SOC report wherein the other information says complementary subservice organization control or complementary user entity controls, then you can get saying that there is a third party also involved in this CSOX. So if you see CSOX in other information in the very fifth section, then you can say that a subservice organization is also involved in this particular SOC. So this is all about SOC report, how the SOC report looks like, and what is SOC 1, what is SOC 2, then what is SOC 3, what are the difference between SOC 1, SOC 2 and SOC 3, what is a SOC report, how it looks like, what is a bridge letter, what is the format of the bridge letter, and then what is complementary user entity controls, what is complementary subservice organization controls. So all these things are there. So from an interview point of view, from an if you want to put that in your resume, always ensure that you put it as saying that you have knowledge on the SOC 1 and SOC 2. So that would be enough for you to raise your weightage of your resume, because even if you have knowledge, that would be more than enough that you have knowledge on that SOC 1 SOC 2 report. So what the other person would expect is that he might definitely ask you a question on SOC, and he will ask you what is SOC 1, what is SOC 2, what are the differences, uh, mm, and then he might also ask you what is bridge letter, have you ever seen the SOC report. So if at all he asks you have you ever seen the report, you can say yes, but you can also say that, see, I have seen the SOC report when one of my colleague was working on that, but I have a fair amount of idea how it looks like, but I have never worked on it. Then you can explain each and every section, what exactly that section means. And then if he asks you about bridge letter, you can also explain that. All these information are part of the SOC. So the more you provide the information to the person, the more person would be happy, because you have knowledge on ITGs, you have knowledge on SOC as well. So try to provide the max information that you have if somebody is asking on SOC. So if you definitely put a SOC in your particular resume, he'll definitely ask you more questions on it. So you should be able to answer it. So this particular SOC is really having a good demand in the market as well, because very few people are working on this. So if you by chance get an opportunity to work on SOC, so that would be really good. But it is like simply conducting audit only, because see, even if you work on SOC 1, whether you work on SOC 2, end of the day it's all about like uh, mm, testing those controls only. The only thing is that you work on a smaller part, the other person will work on a smaller part, or will contribute and put that in the form of a report, and the lead or a manager of your company within the internal audit team will submit it to the user organization, and the user organization will discuss based on it, they'll submit to the external auditor. So, but this has a really good demand in the market. So, as I told you, just give me a minute. I'll show you something.